All right, and we are back. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Florida Boy. You are watching Florida Boy EDC. If you have not been here before, we do a lot of fun stuff. By fun stuff, I mean looking at knives and EDC gear in general. So today's video is going to be the review of the Civivi Mini Praxis. Tink. Let's get into it. So obviously, first thing you're going to notice right off the bat looking at the table is that we are looking at a knife. But this isn't just any knife. This is the Civivi Mini Praxis. And out of a lot of the knives that I review and look at on this channel, this is one of the knifiest looking knives that I think I have. This is a very plain design. There's no thrills, no frills, none of that stuff. This is just your ordinary standard knife. But I kind of knew that getting into this, and honestly, Civivi's coming out with kind of a lot of good stuff here lately, and their prices are really good. But we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this and kind of see what the final judgment of this guy is after me having it for a couple weeks. So what we'll go ahead and do first is we're gonna go ahead and do a couple of knife comparisons. This is against the Rat Model 1. And we'll go ahead and do, I'm just going to do a couple more. I'm not going to do a ton. Most people probably are going to have this knife. And if you don't, you already kind of know the size of this knife. So here it is up next to the Spyderco PM2. That is the Wharncliffe model. We'll do one big knife just for all you Cold Steel boys out there. Oh, I messed up the thumb flick. Here it is next to the Cold Steel 8010. And I'm just gonna do like two more, and we'll do the big pair. Oh god, we'll do the big pair that everybody's kind of on the street about right now. So here is the CJRB Echo, and here is the Pyrite Wharncliffe alternate edition, whatever you want to call it. This is the, if you get it on Amazon, they just call it the alt model. So just to give you an idea of the size, the Mini Praxis is in fact the Mini Praxis. It is kind of a small knife, a little bit smaller than I thought it was going to be. I'm more of a big knife person, but we won't let that kind of impact this review here. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get a weight. I thought I had my scale out already. I do not. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and close the slot. There we go. So we are at 2.8 ounces. So relatively light knife. I mean, like I said, it's a knife. I mean, there's nothing super duper special about this. It does have recessed, what do you call this? Clip. There we go. Recessed clip screws. Having a hard time waking up my brain this morning. And I mean, the features, I mean, it really is well made. If I had to complain about a couple things, you don't really have great access to that lock bar right there. And that, I'm not a huge fan of that. The action really isn't bad. I gotta kind of wiggle mine down in there. You kind of, whenever you hit this lock bar, you can kind of feel right about, at least on my particular model, right here. Yeah. There you go. See that? Before it locks in. So you've kind of got like almost like a double clutch there going on. Not a huge fan of that. The flipper tab works fairly well. We'll take a look at the flipper tab right there. You're not really going to push button it. You can, but through me playing with this really is a light switch style flip. If you tried to do just like the push button, yeah, you can fail it. So definitely a light switch. Just so you know, you got a little bit of a weird flipper tab there. It really is a good knife. You've got like this nice little hollow grind going on. We can look up, we kind of got this swedgy deal going on at the top, not very thick blade stock. And you do have a nice little bit of jimping there on the back. So ergo's pretty good. It does have slightly milled out fingers, spots for your fingers right here. It fits my hand decent. You can see I can get a full 4-finger grip, and the jimping on the top, super minimal, so I can kind of get my finger on that ramp there. And honestly, when I choke up, I don't care for choking up. I feel like if they were going to make this finger choil here, they should have extended this jimping right here at the top, because once you choke up, this doesn't feel natural. Me putting my finger farther up, it feels a little bit more natural. And now I know you're not going to do jimping to, halfway up the blade, but if we could have extended till maybe like right here, just so it would have caught the meat of my thumb. If we look where my thumb is, whenever I'm choked up, it's literally right in front of that jimping. That just feels natural right about here. So if I grab something like the Echo, you don't really have a choke up spot, but if I wanted to choke up, I don't know. It's got a little bit thicker blade stock, so even though it doesn't have that jimping, it doesn't feel like my thumb is going to slide all over the place. I feel locked in. And that's one of the things I don't like about the Mini Praxis anyways. Now, granted, I don't have the full-size Praxis, so the full-size Praxis maybe, a little bit more touched on that issue. But with the Mini, for me, utility-style cuts, not really feasible with this knife. But this is me being nitpicky. And let's also keep in mind that this is what, a $35 knife. I mean, really, it's very, very inexpensive. So speaking of Mini Praxis, this knife comes in right at, if I could figure out how to use a tape measure, right at about 6 3/4 inches. Your blade itself right at 3 inches, and your cutting edge roughly just shy of 2.5. Throw that on top of there. Do a durability test. So as far as like sharpness goes, I mean, it's a hollow grind. This is right out of the box. I haven't done any kind of sharpening or stropping, honing, nothing like that. It's slicey. It's super slicey. I mean, look at this little curly Q we just shaved off of there. Right out of the box, this thing is gonna rip through cardboard, whatever you want it to cut. So, I think it does the job well. But you just have to remember, this is a small knife. This is a little boy, like little boy, and compared to the big boys you got right here, the 8010. I don't know why I keep trying to thumb flick this. Sometimes I can. Sometimes there we go. So it's not, it's nothing like this. Like we're not comparing it to a big knife like that. And I know that. But some people like the smaller knives. And when you get a smaller knife, you should still be able, like, see, whenever I'm using this, my, pyrite, there we go. I'm having a hard time with words again today. So see the jimping on the pyrite? Let's compare jimping here. See that? I mean, we're not super huge compared to the Mini Praxis. Pretty close, but when we put these blades side by side, see how much more jimping you get out of the Mini Praxis or pyrite. There we go. And it's like literally it's like 1/4 of an inch. So when I choke up on this, the meat of my thumb, the back of it, still kind of hits just a little bit of that jimping, and it just makes me feel locked in. So that's what I mean by that jimping. Now, going to this lock bar, I like that they put a little bit of jimping on the lock bar. They just did not give you a lot of access. So see that right there? You really got to kind of push the meat of your thumb. Your thumb kind of does a lot of work with this knife, and that makes me, it's just be prepared for that if this is something that's on your wish list or your that you need to add to your collection. I think there's a few things to be that are kind of left on the table for this knife. But then again, I think back and I'm like, well, we are talking a $30 knife, $35, depending on what price, what sale you get this knife on. So really, the price isn't bad for what you're getting. Speaking of, we'll flip this guy around and we'll talk about let me get my fingerprints, get my grubby little fingerprints off of this. There we go. So speaking of the price, For something like this, you're getting into D2 on the blade steel. We'll open it up one more time. We'll get into D2, right, chaw. And I like that we don't have any billboarding on the blade, if you've noticed that. It does say D2, right? It's super, super tiny. Oh, there it is. Super, super, super tiny. You can see it right there, right above where the top of the scale comes to the blade. Very, very, very lightly etched in there. And then your scales are going to be G10. So I mean, it's what you would expect from a $30 knife. Honestly, I think the materials are very, very well. Honestly, I think me personally, I would have loved to have seen 14C on this. I feel like that would have just been just a hair better. I like D2. I don't think D2 is bad, especially at the $35 price point. I don't think D2 is bad at all. But I think 14C might have set it a little bit over the top. Might have made it just that much more like, okay, I can live with the issues that I have with this knife. So looking at the pocket clip here, you can see that this is this is tip up only, right hand only. Yeah, sorry lefties. I don't know what. I mean, everybody here is Metal Complex, and everybody completely complain about this all the time, and I am with you. I mean, come on, just drill like 2 more holes over here. My buddy Steve over at Steve's Gear, he's a lefty. I mean, this is come on, guys. Give us a little bit of carry options, and not everybody's gonna. I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't carry tip up, but maybe not everybody does. So I mean, give us a little bit of options to move it around, just a hair. But it kind of it's one of those things where it is what it is, So the action. Let's talk about action. So other than this, you can see I've got it disengaged. Yeah, see how it just kind of like sticks, right? Yeah, right there. That's the point right there. And I'll put it up next to the mic. That's where it hits its wall. I don't know. So whenever you're going to close this guy, you got to hit that thumb. You got to hit the lock bar. Make sure it goes past that point, and then you can shake her shut. See there, I just failed it. Very, very interesting. This is me trying to do the push button, if you can't tell. Push button. But then I'll light switch it. Until my finger slips off. And then I will light switch it. There we go. It's so natural to just push button. And this will do the push button, but you really gotta kind of pink. Yeah, so the action's kind of meh. I mean, honestly, it's not anything to write home about. It does have its quirks for the best part, but it is caged ceramic ball bearings, so not the best ball bearings I've ever seen. We'll take this into account that I did oil this the day that I got it, and I have not touched it with any oil since then. So this is the action as of like 2 weeks later of carrying. So still definitely a light switch. Like you gotta flicker like a light switch. So let's go ahead and get out a little flashy light. So we'll go ahead and take a look in here. We can see that we have some milled out liners. Might be easier to see this from the back. Sorry. So there you go. You can see we've got 4 big milling spots there on the show side, bottom of the show side liner. And then on the back, flip this. There we go. Clip side, it looks like we also have no milling. Sorry, I was looking at the lock bar. I thought that was milling. No. I mean, so I don't know. Honestly, I really it's a knife. It's a budget knife. So I'm grabbing out my little oh, that's the wrong one. Oh, there we go. Let me get out my little admin pouch. I actually took my tools to work with me the other day, and I don't have my tools out and readily available. But let's just go ahead and see what we are looking at as far as hardware goes. So I'm going to go ahead and close this blade before the knife. I accidentally hit my hand on the knife, and then quickly becomes my least favorite knife in my collection. So that is not what I'm looking for. This should be, what do we got? This is T7. No. Okay, T7. It's going to be T7 on the pocket clip. And I'm going to guess that is not a T8. What even is that? Why did I put that in there? And this is T8. And we're going to be T8 on the pivot and T8 on body screws. I don't know why I got out my little... Would that make it... Does it make it easier for everybody else if I just slide it in here and I'm like, T8? Ah, yes, the T8. T8 on the pivot. Excellent. So, yeah, it really... I think it's a good knife, and I think it's a good value. I definitely can't take away from that. Civivi is doing some really, really awesome things this year. And this is a knife that's been around for a while, and I think the whole Praxis line is kind of a staple in the EDC community. It just is. The price is good. The materials are good. Action is me. But, you kind of get to a point whenever you're collecting. Well, I don't even know what that is. You kind of get to a point when you're collecting that you expect more than you should at every price range. And I think that's what happens with me here. Aesthetically, this knife looks good. It really does. This is a very minimalist knife. And the ergos really aren't bad. I have my qualms with, I wish there was I wish that jimping came out to like right there would have been perfect. Just for me, I see what they were going for. Like whenever you're here, you can set your thumb right there on that little divot, the ramp. But honestly, the back of the spine of this is so thin that whenever you go down, like you can just see my finger just slides across it. That's one of my issues. I feel like that's a miss. But like I said, consider the price, consider what you're getting for the price. And I mean, it's Civivi, you know it's going to be good. Civivi doesn't really drop a lot of things that aren't excellent. I mean, one of my most recent knives that I got from, my buddy Dan, this is, I don't remember the name of this. This is a Civivi, obviously. But, I freaking love this knife. I really do. It's a button lock, so it's a little bit different, obviously, than the Mini Praxis. And I'm still getting used to trying to get my finger into that little fuller. I haven't had this knife very long. So I kind of, with that tiny fuller that's in here, I kind of fingernail flick it. So, that's another thing about this knife that I'm just kind of like, I wish that fuller was just a little thicker. But it's kind of the way, it's kind of the way a lot of knives are going to be. We're all looking for that perfect knife in every freaking price range. You could buy a $20 knife and be like, man, I wish it had this. And then you realize you spent $20 for it, and you're like, oh well, we're trying to compare this to something that should be a custom for us. So what do I think? I think the Mini Praxis is a great knife. I see what the hype is around it. I would buy it again, honestly. I don't know if I'd pay full price. I would probably wait for a sale if it were me in particular. Civivi usually does run some kind of sale, whether it's on Blade HQ, Knife Center, Amazon, and you can usually get a little bit of a discount. I did not. I just paid full price because, I don't know, I saw it and I was like, it's time for me to check one of these out. So I think for $35, it's worth it. I think if you got it for a little bit more of a deal, it would feel more worth it, and that's probably what I should have done. But I'm not unhappy with my purchase. I think it was $35 well spent, and I'm glad I got to finally check one out. Honestly, it makes me want to check out the full size Praxis. So I'm pretty stoked to get my hands on a full size Praxis. That'll be next on the list somewhere. So I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. There's not a ton to talk about with this guy. It's a very basic EDC knife, and there's nothing wrong with that. And Civivi tends to show us that all the time. that there's nothing wrong with being just a basic, EDC, good cutter, nice and slicey, fits in your pocket very, very well. Ergos are great. And that's what the Mini Praxis is, honestly. So, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This has been 20 minutes about talking about the Mini Praxis. So thank you guys so much for stopping by, checking out the channel, watching the video. You know how much I appreciate it. And if you don't mind, drop a comment, leave a like, consider subscribing. I appreciate all that. Appreciate all you guys. Thanks again, guys. Catch you on the next one.